We are just outside our CTV studios in North End, Halifax, and a lot of people don't realize that just a few blocks away, there was once a prison. I'm joined now by Katie Ingram, who's written a book about Rockhead Prison, and yeah, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about your book.
So this is The Undesirables, a history of Rockhead Prison. And Rockhead was the city prison for kind of more minor crimes in the North End for about 100 years.
Yeah, when was it built?
They started in about the 1850s, and then probably the first recorded inmate was registered in the spring of 1860.
Now, interesting that you're writing a full book about a prison. What was it that fascinated you about Rockhead?
It was kind of strange that in such a residential area there was a prison. You know, we know the North End today is very built up, and it was residential at the time too, and it was just weird that right in the middle of such an area there was this fortress, basically.
Yeah, and it was there for quite some time. So you did a ton of research to make this book possible, a lot of newspaper gleaning. Like, how did you do all the research?
I started by looking at the archives. So the Halifax Municipal Archives have all of the Rockhead records, so that would be the registries for all of the prisoners, you know, reports, things like that. So I started there, but then I also knew that newspapers would have stories that weren't there. So prison escapes and things that were done that maybe weren't right. So I started looking there as well. Yeah.
Interesting. Now the book is just this week. It is now available for you to buy, but I got to see a sneak peek of it, and what I found fascinating is the stories. So many stories. Some of them are really heartbreaking and really interesting how times have changed. For example, women in Rockhead Prison. Very interesting relations there. Maybe share a bit about that with our viewers.
Yeah, so for a lot of women, it seemed like they were, you know, arrested for minor things, like not, you know, they were causing a disruption. They weren't really, you know, they weren't doing any crime like breaking and entering, but they were causing a disruption, or they were getting drunk and in public, and they were arrested for that, even though it seemed like they were being arrested more often than men were for that type of crime, at least from the reports I saw. So it just seemed like they wanted women to behave a certain way, and if they didn't, we kind of put you away.
Put you, literally imprison you, I know. And then let's talk about the Grant family. Long history with the prison, and you got to speak with several living family members.
Yes, I got to talk with Rick Grant, who is the great-nephew of John Grant, the second Grant governor, and Heather Fisher, who is the granddaughter of John. The senior Grant, George, was given the job in 1912. He stayed there until his retirement, and then his son applied for the job, John Grant, and he got the job as well, and then he stayed until his retirement, and family members lived there off and on with them, and yeah, so it was basically their home for, you know, 50 or so years.
Yeah, you talked about being in a residential area, but actual families lived within the walls of the prison.
Yeah. Heather actually told me that she went to Richmond School, and a teacher had to drive her home to pick up some shoes. And she's like, oh, I live at the prison. And she thought she lived behind the prison in the like subdivision. But she's like, no, I live in the prison. And the teacher couldn't believe it, that she lived there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, the book it's fascinating. I really, really am enjoying reading it. And I just wonder what you want people, when they do read it, to take away from this book.
I think two things. I think I want people to realize like what we've lost in Halifax. Like, we've lost a lot of you know, major buildings, but this has been gone for so long that no one remembers it. So, you know, that idea of like losing our heritage or losing historic buildings, but also that, you know, for the prisoners themselves, a lot of these people were victims of circumstance. They had a hard time in life, and they just ended up coming back there multiple times in a lot of cases. So like that these people are human outside of their crimes, which is what we normally read about when we read about them in newspapers and such.
Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining us today. And why don't you hold all the books for our viewers and see? The Undesirables by Katie Ingram. You can pick it up, and yeah, it's available this week.